It's more of, okay.
So
all right.
you hear things like stoning, for example.
Okay.
Let's start with this particular
Yes,
punishment.
let's start with
Does this exist in the Sharia? Is this a prescribed punishment that you're proud of?
Yeah, absolutely. There is no doubt by the consensus of the Muslims that stoning exists within the Sharia of Islam. And stoning is something that exists within the Torah as well.
Okay.
And that is something that is also, to the best of my knowledge, not disputed, that stoning is explicitly mentioned in the Torah. In fact, it's mentioned in the Torah for crimes like, for example, a rebellious son is stoned to death. One who violates the Sabbath is stoned to death. Falsely presenting a bride as a virgin is stoned to death. Cursing God, stoned to death. And inviting people to other religions, also stoning to death in the Torah. That's in what we have, what they have of the Torah. We do not know if that is what Allah Azza wa Jal revealed upon them, because this is the ruling of Shar'u man qablana. We don't have a proof for that one way or the other about whether that is whether that was revealed by Allah Azza wa Jal. But I wanted to show that this is something that clearly has a divine origin, because it is clearly present in the previous scriptures without a shadow of a doubt. And it is something which we know in the previous scriptures was the punishment for adultery of a married person. We know that because of what happened when the two Jewish people were brought before the Prophet ﷺ having committed zina. And the Prophet ﷺ, he asked them, what do you find in the Torah for these people? And they said, we blacken their faces and we parade them. You know, we parade them around the city. So the Prophet ﷺ asked for the Torah to be brought and to be read, and they covered Ayat al-Rajam. They covered the part that talked about stoning to death. And when they lifted their finger, they saw that they had concealed the fact that the punishment for them was to be stoned to death. So there's no doubt that this is something that existed before, and there is no doubt that this is something that exists within Islam. Now, I want to describe this punishment a little bit.
Okay.
Because I do think it's important to understand the proper way of carrying out a punishment. Because I started looking into this, and I started looking into different methods of execution. It's a bit
okay, that's a bit
morbid, yeah. But I did start looking into different methods of execution, lethal injection, electrocution, gas chambers, and all that type of stuff. And I also looked into how stoning is carried out in different countries. And we want to be clear that what we were talking about is Islam here. We're not talking about a particular implementation of this in a particular country. So the man is buried in the ground to the waist. The woman is buried in the ground to her chest height for additional concealment. The stones should not be so large that they cause death. One stone causes instantaneous death, like dropping a boulder. Yeah. And that is actually, I believe, what certain people took from the Torah and the Talmud, is they actually, what their practice was to push someone off the top of a building and drop a big boulder on them.
Would that not be better and quicker, some people may argue?
That's not the rule. I believe it is quicker, but that's not the ruling that Allah Azza wa Jal revealed. The ruling that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed was in the middle. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. Not to use a big boulder that disfigures a person or crushes a person in one go and the person dies, nor to use little stones that prolong their punishment. And you know, there's something in Islam, wallah, I found it so amazing when I was reading the chapters around this and the fiqh around this, is how much the scholars of fiqh talk about not excessively hurting a person. It's surprising because we're talking about punishments, but not excessively hurting the person. They disliked and discouraged the use of very small stones that prolong a person's suffering. The purpose here is the person to suffer. And this is the purpose. But before that, the purpose is to deter people from doing this, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the purpose here is that, like Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said and others, this person has committed a crime which affected their whole body. And the person in that way, the threat of pain, the threat of the pain of this punishment is what will stop a person from a punishment, from a crime which is very easy to fall into, right? It's very desirable. It's all about desires and shahawat, and you know, the person wants to do this, and there's a very strong pull from the shaitan. But thinking about the potential punishment from that, that's a big deterrent in stopping people from doing it. And I want to also, so here we said, neither should it be small stones that cause unnecessary suffering, nor should it be a huge boulder that is dropped upon a person, but it should be something of medium size that will get the matter over quickly, but at the same time will serve as a strong deterrent.